Hey, hey. Could everyone hear me?
Hi.
Awesome. Hello, hello. Yay, I'm so glad we all made it. Welcome, everyone, to Sunny and Fresh, the summer's hottest beauty and skincare trends, here with Samy Alliance and ourselves from Viral Moment. I am so excited for this today. We have dove really deep into all things beauty, cosmetics, what's happened over the summer, where we're going to go in the future, what can brands do. And I'd love to just dive into this with everybody so we can use the best of this 45-minute time that we have to have a really cool conversation about cosmetics and trends. First off, I'm Elizabeth. I am the head of growth here at Viral Moment. I'm super excited to bring everybody together. We have Chris here as well from partnerships here at Viral Moment. There is Jasmine. She is from Samy Alliance. Dee and Sarah as well, also from Samy Alliance, are all here to tell you a ton about the amazing things that happen in the cosmetic space, which is super exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right on in. During this time, if anybody has questions, if anybody wants to ask something, feel free to drop it into the comments. We're here checking it. We'll either answer it in the comments or we'll answer it live. There'll be a Q&A at the very end of the session as well. We're going to have just a great conversation about all things that are happening. So please join in. Enjoy the conversation. Participate in it. Let us know where you're going with your brand, what questions you have. Even if you're not in the beauty or skincare space, there is plenty of learnings here so that you can translate this into what's important for your brand and your industry niche. So I'm excited to start the conversation. First off, just a really quick thing about what exactly it is that we're looking at today. So at Viral Moment, what we do is we help businesses trend surf. We use data to combine the art and science of anticipating the consumer so that you can create at the speed of culture. Keep your brand relevant, keep it on time, keep it from being tone deaf is really what we want. We want to be relatable to the audience that we care about. We want them to know that we're here for them, that we understand them, we're creating for them. And so we do this by looking inside of the video so that you can better understand the conversations that really matter. We go beyond just the description and the caption to analyze the audio, the text on the screen, the images in the video, the logos in the video. We understand what products and what brands are being mentioned and so much more by looking inside of the video. So we use all of this data so you can pinpoint when topics are starting to go viral. You can see who's leading the conversation. You can see what brands and products are showing up within it. And you can just go deep into that data and do so much more. And what's great is that you can tell us what topics you want to dive into. And we'll be able to go out and find that data for you, tell you how to analyze it. You can work with teams like Samy to learn how to analyze it, have them do this amazing work for you. And that's what they're going to do today. So Samy Alliance actually did exactly this. They trend surfed with Viral Moment, going through our beauty trend surfer IQs, and they deciphered what was happening inside of the beauty space so that they could find out what's leading this culture, why it's coming up, how brands can know about these trends and topics ahead of time, what are the trends and topics that are going to stay around that you can still participate in, that are going to keep you relevant, that aren't going to go away for a long time. And it's just really cool, all the stuff that they did. So I'm actually going to pass it to the Samy team so they can tell you a little bit more about these beauty trends, and we'll get into the good stuff. I'm actually going to pull down my screen. I'm going to have Sarah share her screen. You ready for that, Sarah? Yeah, cool. And then we'll get going.
Just because I'm extra curious, if anybody has a favorite beauty product they've been using or a favorite skincare product they've been using, please drop it in the comments. Always curious.
I got this really expensive face cream once as a gift from some event at my partner's work, and it's amazing. It's called Lamar, I think.
Yeah, Lamar.
It's like stuffing my face in a cloud. Just that feeling of putting it in a cloud.
That needs to be a marketing slogan right there. Stuff your face in a cloud. Bam.
Somebody send it to the marketing team, please. Yeah. It's always the catch when you get it in a gift bag and you're like, this has been amazing. Now I have to go buy it. And you're like, oh, okay.
It's not Elizabeth, do you mind sharing your screen? on our side?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to thank you, Elizabeth, so much for setting us up. I'll just tell you a little bit about Samy. So Samy Alliance, we're a global agency, and I think on the next slide.
Here it is. There we go.
Perfect. Well, as you can see, Samy Alliance, we really we help brands move forward.
Oh, it was me.
Sorry, we're just getting into screen sharing.
No.
Always technical things. We got
All good. This is the beauty of doing it live. Here we go.
Yeah, par for the course, truly.
But Dee, since you asked about skincare routines, let me just tell you about mine real quick. Just kidding. Let's jump into Samy Alliance.
We're going to come back to that. Don't worry, Chris.
Okay, perfect. Well, as mentioned, Samy Alliance, we help brands move forward. And we have actually a huge legacy and passion for beauty. Just over 10 years ago, when the founders came together and founded Samy Road and now Samy Alliance, they actually came from L'Oreal, and that passion for beauty and that industry has carried on till today. And we're now super excited to tell you a little bit more about how we're utilizing our tools, the insights, tools like ViralMoment, to really help brands move forward and get some exciting insights that can inform all sorts of different touch points, campaigns, influencer activations, or even content creations. But yeah, on the next slide, we'll just briefly want to touch upon our methodology. And as Elizabeth has mentioned, the tool is really great. We're huge fans and we love to trend surf. Of course, there is a little bit more of a methodology behind how we're utilizing all these great data and insights. So we really want to explore questions like how's culture affecting beauty and skincare trends, but also what product launches inspire conversations. And also, most importantly as well, really understanding who are emerging creators to watch out. And ViralMoment is a great platform as it it helps us remove that algorithm fog that we have. We might be familiar with it when we scroll through our TikToks and we think, oh, this is everywhere. But actually, the algorithm is very catered to our behavior. And so tools like the ViralMoment tool really helps us to get that neutral view. And what we find super exciting is that create fast content. So we'll see top performing content that is really up there and the audience are engaging and is relevant to us. Now, just for the data sets, we've looked into cosmetics and skincare. We've sampled around 90K videos, which also the tool is an amazing support. Imagine us having to watch 90K videos to understand what's going on. But yeah, really, the cool thing is that these are really the top performing videos as well. So we automatically look at what's relevant to the audience. Now, 90K videos for cosmetics and then 50K videos for skincare based on these performance metrics. And I think in terms of methodology, I'm gonna pass it over to Sarah to talk us through the type of insights we could identify in this project.
Sure. So we identified what we are calling umbrella trends and looking at how these sub-trends feed into this larger trend that we've seen over Q2, and looking at how trends, how they evolve throughout the period that we looked at. So we identified these three more macro trends, these high production transition videos, less is more core, and pop culture palette. And underneath those are the trends that help build into these macro trends. And so we're gonna go into looking at these overall trends a little bit here. So with these high production transition videos, we're seeing a lot more higher production values. People are really playing with fast cuts and doing a lot more editing. We saw this kind of start with the Ahsoka trend that really took off earlier in the quarter, and very much then evolved into different iterations. So people were doing different nationalities, they were doing idol, like star, studio era stars makeup, like Marilyn Monroe, even transitioning into, you know, different types of movie characters as well. And we can see, you know, and you'll be able to see this in the full report for all the trends, but looking at how we break those down into these different movements that make up this, you know, makeup transition trend that we noticed. So like I said, we see the Ahsoka trend, we see, you know, the format is very similar for a lot of these spin-off trends, but it's very much more high production value, very dramatic looks that, you know, really build to this macro trend.
Sarah, did you see this like high production value of trends? When I look at this, I'm like, there's a 0% chance I would be able to do this. But there's some really, really good TikTokers out there. Did you see a lot of this coming from like brands, or was it actually just UGC regular creators that have this talent for creating videos like this?
So we saw this from a lot of just like normal creators that really know, like there are a lot of very savvy users on TikTok that really have, you know, taken advantage of the way that the platform allows you to, you know, edit. But also we were seeing, you know, people wanted to get in on this trend so much that somebody actually made a filter that would change every time you would like wipe your hand in front of the screen, so that like even if you don't have the skills to edit the video, like other people were getting in on the trend using the filter. So we'll go into the next macro trend here. We're well, also before that, we also wanted to highlight that, you know, while ViralMoment does give us access to video content that we, you know, it's so hard to analyze at scale if you're just doing it manually. We do also look at, you know, content from like the comments and descriptions of the videos. So we do look at also the text data as well, just as an supplemental data source, because we also want to see how people are engaging with the content, not just the content being made, but how users, you know, are engaging.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to say here, just since I got to be a little bit on the back end as we were doing the analysis process, I think like digging into this, and I think as we all know, the comment sections are so juicy at times, but it was really interesting to just to see the kind of difference. I think you see some of it. Loved watching the process here. I don't realize how much, you know, effort goes into these things, but I kind of love seeing that evolution of, or not evolution, but just like the different ranges of what it takes to do beauty content now. I think there's people who are totally down to see the whole process end to end, breaking it down, and there's like a much more educational factor there. And then I love these like kind of truly high impact, high entertainment moments that are like, that still give you a little bit of like the how it's done, but are so, I would say like they're incredibly polished. They feel like the movie version of like the regular tutorial. And digging into these comments, you really do see how people appreciate that and then want to maybe even batch code. So like the process almost shifts. Instead of watching a longer form one, they see this when it captivates them, and then they like go back and want to find the ones that actually break it down. So just seeing those little behaviors that emerge when we dissect the comments, super valuable.
Yeah, and I also think in terms of like, you know, for brands out there, like really harnessing also the organic voice of our consumers, like when they share with us their passions, what they're up to, how these products resonate. That's all insights we're able to gather here quickly at scale and then like translate into something actionable.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we move into our second macro trend. So we are seeing the recession hit the beauty space here, emphasizing on less is more core. So we see things like the lipstick effect coming into play here. Lipstick is considered, you know, a small luxury. People are cutting back, they're slimming down their routines. They're also looking for products that do more than one thing, or they're also looking at, what are some more affordable options that, might be at the drugstore that, may perform just as well as like their luxury counterparts. But I do think it's, interesting that we are seeing how, the economy is playing a role in how people are consuming and creating content around cosmetics.
So you could say, Sarah, this is like the true intersection of fashion and function, right? It has to serve multi-purposes than just its original use case.
Right, and people don't want to sacrifice on, they're like beauty consumers. They want to, maintain that, high level of look. They want but cosmetics can get pretty pricey, and so finding ways to achieve the same look at a budget where clean girls still very much going, and it isn't these like high impact looks, but people are finding ways to slim down where they can without sacrificing.
I like that it kind of turns the general, like, I think this concept occurs in beauty and skincare a lot, and even in fashion. Like, if it's expensive, if it's more expensive, then it must be better. And I do like that this is, as we dig in here more, that's flipping that around. And obviously, there are products that live up to their cost, but we can there's so many drugstore level brands that really do maintain that integrity and innovation within beauty at an affordable and accessible cost.
Yeah, and we do see this event, when we get to the top brands, we do see, there is quite a array of different price points that we're seeing. So then we get into our third umbrella trend, which is this pop culture palette. It's, we are seeing these maximalism looks, these high impact looks coming back, and they're very much being driven by pop music and, pop stars. Chappell Roan comes to mind with her, look at Coachella. A lot of content came out of trying to recreate that specific look. But we are also seeing, Sabrina Carpenter bringing back espresso makeup earlier in the summer, as well as, Doja Cat's Met Gala look. Pop is really, influencing, people want to recreate these looks.
What's fascinating is like celebrities have always had an influence on how and like what kind of shapes beauty, culture, fashion, etc. But what I love about this stuff is like it's organic. Like Sabrina Carpenter wasn't, as far as I'm aware, and of course correct me if I'm wrong, but like she wasn't paid to be like, okay, bring back espresso makeup. Like she just did it. And then it took off. And then that became like this outlet for these brands to be like, oh, hey, we have an espresso palette and all this other stuff. So just the influence of TikTok and social video for pop culture and how it influences the brands without actually paying these celebrities to make those kind of big statements and how it takes off. It's fascinating to watch it evolve.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that pop is kind of creating this dichotomy, because like with the recession core, like a lot of the looks are, a lot more like clean girl aesthetic looking. They're very more minimalistic. And then you have, all like the pop culture palette is very loud and, very just dramatic, that we're seeing this, push and pull there.
Well, we've got Brat and we've got Demure. Oh my gosh, am I too millennial? Am I not saying this right? I need a Gen Z here who can help me.
Very much saying that absolutely correctly. Oh, and we were talking about it. I think Sarah, you brought it up a couple of days ago, and you're like, we see the kind of that range of like Brat to Demure, which essentially contradict each other, but we are and people. We don't have to be or, we can be and people, and like play in that space. And I think that's when it comes to beauty, and I think where we're seeing that pop culture, kind of what we say with whether it's Chappell Roan, whether it's Sabrina Carpenter, where you have that fandom, they're playing with their thing, and you're like, okay, I'm not them. I can sing along to it, but I can have the look. I can play in that way. And I do think that if we kind of go back to culture in general, obviously with recession core, but that bit of escapism, that bit of play, one, very healthy for us, so we should always do it. But we do see that kind of thematic, again, how culture does affect what we're doing. And I think even the songs that they're singing, right? Those kind of with espresso and talking about she's working late with chaperone and that general her vibe, like it's not just, I think the looks are one part of it, but really embodying that personality, that persona, that vibe, that essence even.
Yeah, very bold these days. And so, Dee, I'm going to let you kind of talk about how, you know, visualizations like this kind of help with like showing this to a client, you know, mapping these out.
Yeah, and so a lot of, you know, with kind of the analysis we did here between Sarah on the intelligence side and strategy on the side, there's a lot of kind of back and forth here. And so when we've identified, you know, here are the things that really do their mainstays, pillars that are moving, we have to look at it through the lens of, you know, what is my mainstream, what is niche, what's here to stay, and what has viral potential, right? And a lot of that because, you know, I think at the end of the day, what we always give counsel on is like, it's not necessarily about shouting in every single moment, right? But it is about how are you really heard in the moments that matter the most? And so really identifying which trends have, you know, kind of within your brand and, you know, whether they're beauty or whether they're any other industry, like what does have the most longevity? Like, is there a trend that's moving that that you can maybe create one or two or three pieces of assets on because they really do apply to your core DNA as a brand, right? And what are the ones that maybe maybe the brand got tagged, maybe we want to explore a little and just play a little bit, that are way more, you know, kind of lower development costs, maybe very, very something simple. So with graphics like this, and these are something that we always try to implement within any kind of, you know, kind of opportunity map or trend reporting, forecasting projects, really to give clients and to give that team one visual. Obviously it comes with a lot of other information, but this is something that's highly shareable. We've seen it kind of shared through in broader teams, helping people map out, okay, this is where we really want to put a little bit more of our budget. This is where we want to, again, just a little bit light. So visuals like this, and also we tend to do these like for some of our clients, even on a monthly or a bi-weekly. I think that you'd be very surprised how these things shift around. And obviously I think if you are close to the beauty space in any capacity, the trend cycles can start and finish right there at the end of my sentence. And so it's really interesting to just be able to, and I think it takes all of the pieces that you've seen today, digging into the comments, digging into the actual visuals of it to really understand what has longevity. I think we were, you know, even if we were going to go back to Demir for 2 seconds, right? The creator had been making videos for quite a bit of time now, is not somebody brand new. You know, someone hears that earworm gets in, the way she delivered it, that tone, that persona is so clearly so relatable. And now it's kind of on its wave and it's trend surfing in the ways it is. If we looked at that in 2 weeks, if we looked at that in a month, that would definitely likely be in a different plot on this visual. So we really do lean on kind of anchor visuals like this to help our clients kind of demystify where they need to invest and, you know, what kind of that long-term as well as short-term planning.
Hey, Dee, I got a question for you. When you're looking at that data, right, and we get this question quite a bit too, and would love to see from your point of view and from Sammy's point of view how you look at this data. How do you decipher looking at these analytics a fad from a trend, right? Just as you're saying, like something that is here today, and by the time I finish my sentence, it's already gone and it's yesterday's news, versus like something that has staying power.
So I would say, and obviously Sarah jumping here, I'd say that's something that if you ask probably a couple people, there's a bunch of, I would say, if this then that's occur. A little bit, at least from my perspective as a strategist, one, is it truly, and this is usually my goal, is it an earworm or is it an earworm that matters? Which I know sounds ridiculous. One, I mean, generally the earworms, we know what they are, don't need to go into them. And that's fine, because I think at the end of the day, all the different mediums, as someone who is aggressively online, they stick around for one reason or another, right? What I mean by is it an earworm that actually matters is it speaking to us? And I will say this, like with, you know, kind of the demure and the Brad, like, is it speaking to something deeper? Does it have ties, or how well can I connect those ties to something happening within culture, a broader movement? You know, I think the phrase, and I go all the way, this is all the way back to like, I feel like 2020, but like, the essence of like what Hot Girl Walk was, right? And it's still to this day, thriving. It was girls coming together who want to do something fun, who don't want to be harassed by anybody on the street and want to build community. And so when that phrase erupted after, during the pandemic, and it's still there, I was like, there's roots to that in community. There's roots to that in something much deeper. When I think about, Brat, obviously there is ties to that in kind of this broader persona and very much tied to women, but also that energy of like, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm not here to hurt anybody, but I'm done making myself little. I'm gonna be a little bratty sometimes. I'm gonna take up space, and that's okay. And I think the S element of demure, while I think that there is for sure, I don't think it's going anywhere tomorrow. I do think that might, I think the brat element might overtake it a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things happening this year. There's a lot of, I think rebellious energy to put that, in the most politically correct way possible. So my one signal is like how, when I sit here, when I look at the content, and it's never just one piece. And I think with Sarah and I, we'll go back and forth and be like, hey, did you see this one? Did you see this one? And it really is a mix of looking at the different signals to see how much noise is actually being generated. And really at the end of the day, it's not, the Viral Moment platform helps us see that, digest such a big amount of us, but really at the end of the day, it's leaning on us as like the right stewards of said brand, giving counsel in the right way, because we know the brands, we know the industry, and we really do our best to kind of keep an ear to internet culture, and that's culture that transcends regional, transcends community-based things, but really has this, again, we're all aggressively online, that layer of how does that unify us. But Sarah, please jump in as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add that this is where like category expertise really does play in, and where like our team really, I think, brings a lot of value. Like, we're able to get the data from Viral Moment, but it really takes somebody who knows, kind of what to look for and kind of what the landscape looks like in order to make those determinations.
And also, just to add on that, I mean, it's not just like a momentarily like snapshot. It's also like understanding how has this trend built up, what's the patterns, what's the longevity of it. So really also understanding those metrics. If it's like broader, affecting other, is it coming from another industry? Is it interlaced, or is it impacting? Is it just in its isolation and as a bubble? So like from a metrics point of view as well, to consider, like where expertise meets metrics, I'd say we're having like the best chance to like classify these trends.
Yeah. Wow. We're gonna kind of go, I think, a little quicker through some of these like supplementary slides in addition to the trends. So we did identify these top 10 cosmetic brands based on share of voice. We do see this trend of like, the drugstore brands coming out, but we also were seeing, celebrity beauty brands are still very much, here to stay, with Rare Beauty, Huda Beauty, Fenty also being in the mix there. So just wanted to highlight those.
Tapping in super quickly, Sarah, into the brands, we do have a question in the chat. Have you seen an example of any brands that are currently talking about or leveraging the less is more trend really well? Are there any of the brands like on this list, or ones that you can think of, putting you on the spot here to like go back to the data, but anybody that's really been leveraging that less is more trend that we talked about?
Yeah, let me, I think it was, the Hailey Bieber. Yeah. Hailey Bieber I would definitely agree with that. Getting someone telling me on the sidelines it's Hailey Bieber. Road Beauty, she's very much, inspired the Strawberry Girl makeup trend last year, but it just keeps coming back. And, her aesthetic is definitely minimalism, and, her beauty brand is also, packaged that way.
Yeah, and that was one, and use a lot of like one product with that one, or correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, like small amount of product, if not two.
And we have another question also from Stephanie around the calculation of the share of voice. So this is just, this will look different depending on which data set we're going to look at and which period of time. So this is just a momentarily analysis, but it's basically like volumes of the category.
Yeah, so the data set that we outlined at the beginning, it's based on how many times, so ViralMoment's great at, because it does entity recognition, so both audio, visual, text, so taking into account, when a brand is mentioned, when a product the robot recognizes, it comes up on screen. So it does do a lot of that back end work for us, and we're able to kind of get a sense of how present is a brand within that data set. And so that is one of the things that we do really love about ViralMoment. We've also, identified some creators to look out for. We're trying to look at, people who are doing interesting things that might not, be a household name, like they're, the most followed. These are, pretty decent sized these people have decent sized followings, but, we felt like they're not as mainstream as, maybe Nikki Tutorials or somebody, but they're doing really interesting content as well.
And I think this is a great thing about removing the algorithm fog, as well as having access to that data set, putting on the spot content driven, creators that create great content and that resonates with the audience. And we want to kind of understand what's driving the relevancy and learn from these as well.
We also identified some new launches in the quarter, and we were looking at what kind of content was being made to promote, but also how were people engaging with these new launches. So Rhode Beauty came out with their Pocket Blush, and so that's kind of the blonzing trend has kind of taken off a little bit of using a darker blush to instead of a bronzer. Selena Gomez with her promotion, she's promoting things with friends and different influencers to promote her new pressed powder. And then we see Kylie and Crumble Cookie, which Crumble definitely has a big presence on TikTok, and so just helps to cast an even wider net there.
Well, and I love. Well, I was gonna say the food pieces obviously are they stick out. Yeah, well, and I love seeing it, because I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to beauty, and especially lip products or whatever, is it gonna come off after I eat? Is it? But I think there's this natural connectivity to food and playing in that space, and so even seeing the fire noodle challenge and things like that, and her basically seeing if it's if it's transfer, if it's waterproof, those, I think those interesting just in our ever evolving quest to kind of just do things a little bit differently within beauty space, and brands always kind of figuring out ways to do that. I think leaning into those naturally, we know that the audience is thinking about this, whether you're into X form of beauty, if you're into if you're more maximalist, if you're more minimalist, doesn't really matter. You still kind of face these same things, right? Is this lipstick going to stay on throughout my whole date? Is it going to stay on through my, through what, a whole day of food, forget a whole day. But yeah, it's just great to see, I think, things like that, and leaning into those spaces. Again, Sarah noted, the Kylie kind of cookie partnership, big personalities on social, and also the girls love a treat. A cookie is a treat.
It's just they really understand their customer, right? And they understand everyone's been watching Crumble Cookies and doing the Crumble Cookie taste thing that's happening in the food spot, space of the social trends. And then they're combining that with girls love the sweets. They want their makeup to stay on while they're eating it. They really knew their consumer. And I think diving into this data, understanding it just helps you to understand the full breadth of the person. They're not just one angle. People are multidimensional.
We're and people, not or.
We do have another question that popped up. How do you typically go about relaying this kind of information about trends and launches to clients to ensure they capitalize on it ASAP?
Yeah, I can start with that one. I'd say it depends on the range. I think this style of trend forecasting and also kind of keeping a pulse on things, whether that's trends, also emerging creators. For certain clients, it works on a bi-weekly kind of like pulse report that's very to the point. It's very short, maybe 5 slides, and it has that matrix and some action opportunities. For other clients, it is more of a bi-weekly, but we do a session, and we'll pull always. We have Jazz and her team, as well as myself and a strategist on my team, to just be able to go, hey, here's what's happening, and here's how we can action on it really quick. Sometimes we'll even pull in a creative at some points, depending on the types of client and the type of industry. And then for some, even I think Jazz, like, we've built full robust kind of dashboards for clients to use, not just with their core team, but if they're like, hey, we have X amount of markets and we need them to be able to access these things, we've built full on kind of dashboards, and obviously with Viral Moments help there. So it does kind of have a quick range. And then sometimes it's I think just the realities of it, sometimes it is just a quick email where we're like, hey, we're seeing this, we email it, an hour later we get an approval, and 3 hours later something is up. So it really just depends on the type of client, but this type of information thankfully is very easily transferred, whether that is digitally, again, like in a report, a dashboard, or even in workshops.
Yeah, and why I love these conversations is like blending the qual and the quant, right? And then on our side here at Viral Moment, when we look at the data, we can pull back. One of the things that we do is we pull back all the way till 2017, right, when TikTok was first launched, and so we can see the trend lines and the crests and the troughs of those trend lines, and we can say, hey, this is really standing out, or this is something special here, or we just have a better idea because we have the historical data, like Jasmine was mentioning earlier as well, to see if this is something unique or not, or something that has that velocity and that staying power too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, like, most importantly is the synthesis. And like Sarah's got on the next slide some key learnings to wrap up our section on beauty. But really, like, filtering through all this information into something like insightful and then actionable as well, like that can inspire good ideas and like really help those brands, like move them forward, like move them to a space where we can connect with our audience and their passion points.
And I can quickly wrap up here, but we are seeing, again, that less is more element, and it's not just slimming things down, but just being more, I think, creative with the products that you already have, which again, that creativity and doing something differently, which is also, I think, something that helps be different within the beauty space. If you are a creator, using the same product the same way that 100 videos are doing it, and then doing something different really does keep, again, a little bit of that stop the scroll, why should I watch this? And definitely those transitions where I think we're starting to see that kind of the high value movie studio production versions of what we would consider more traditional tutorials, and how they fit within that space, and how they kind of create a little bit more of that loop. And sometimes those videos are the ones that have people dig into those longer form ones because the production value is so intriguing and compelling. And really just seeing that connection between beauty and music, which is not surprising, especially on TikTok. But how pop music and entertainment really are influencing the types of looks and inspiring creators to really recreate, obviously the Chappelle and the Sabrina Carpenters of the world, but also like even through the lens of like Hollywood starlets and that kind of fun, but like being, again, from the main stage to our little screens. We can move on.
Well, then we'll quickly touch upon the skincare trends as well. Like Sarah will just quickly skim through this.
So we'll probably, I'm gonna stay here for a second. So we do see, the less is more core, as we can assume, skincare and cosmetics very much are hard to separate completely. So we are seeing, how less is more is also showing up in skincare. We're seeing, people trying, multi-purpose skincare products, slimming down your routine. We're seeing, men kind of come more into the picture, but they're, like being more mindful on the products they're choosing, but not going, straight in with a 10-step routine. Anti-aging is, as we, probably again can see that it is one of the most desired outcomes for a lot of people. They want to either prevent aging or reduce signs of aging. So we're seeing that with, ingredient focused or specific products, and how people are sharing their skincare routines. Bringing back the dichotomy, though, we are seeing, glowing, tan, bronze skin is also very back in. We're seeing people sharing their tanning routines, not just self-tanner, but, how they go out and tan in the sun and what products they're using to get an even tan, and how, different tips and tricks to get that great summer glow. We have deep dives in this, but we've got, we map them out as well here. But for time's sake, and we do want to leave some time for, questions, I'm gonna get to our, let's see here, our key findings. Steve, if you want to take on.
Yeah. And so a couple more here. So definitely seeing some of those at-home solutions. So, I think this leans into the less is more and being able to, kind of, one, can challenge ourselves, right, to do some of these things at home, and two, kind of really lean into what I think a lot of this content does, right? It breaks it down. It shows you how you can do these things. Obviously, we are not condoning in any way. Nobody microderm your face. Nobody take a laser to it at home. But I think there obviously are things that people are starting to do at home, whether that's brow lamination or a peel or things like that, whether it's beauty or skincare. But it really is, we're seeing that natural ingredients, avoiding harsh chemicals that you might find in other spaces. And there is a community around that. And what I think, again, what we see a lot with beauty is people helping each other, answering each other's questions, being, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to attempt this. How do I make sure to not do this the wrong way? And obviously, while underconsumption is a trend, I do think, there is definitely, we see it more, not just slimming down your body, but it should be more intentional about what you're buying and really looking into whether you might already have a product that you maybe haven't looked at. It's in the back of your shelf that maybe is doing something similar to what you're already looking for. And just, again, overall intentional and mindful of what we are. I think not even making the joke. It's truly what I meant. And anti-aging, I think this is a subject that is constantly, within this space, especially as we talk about skincare. Obviously, we can't ignore certain trends that obviously are more going under the knife and Botox and things like that. But obviously, really for people who want to avoid that, and I think we've seen that thematic of conversation. Like, I don't want to have to get X done in a couple of years, so I'm going to use Y now, and I'm just going to be more proactive about those things, right? Whether that's tretinoin, collagen, which you're putting on your face, you're taking collagen supplements, and to balance that, a healthy glow, right? Showing off whether that is a self-tanning product, or just items that, I think we've seen a rise of bronzing drops, bronzing gels, things like that do give off a little bit more of that glow without necessarily being in the sun. But really, we do see that there's people maximizing in the old-fashioned way. But boys and girls wear sunscreen. That's it.
Well, and I love this, Dee. Like, even if you went back to the slide of the quadrant that you have to, like, there's so much opportunity in understanding the trends and the consumers so that you can see, there it is. So you can see, like, as a marketer, my eyes would go towards like this quadrant, in the top right. So I can be like, okay, like what's mainstream, but it's like here to stay. That gives me a lot of longevity with the content I create. It's more like useful for my budget. And maybe I have some side budget where I can be like, cool, like I'm going to totally hop into like the keratin tanning gel side of things. I clearly don't do enough skincare, and I definitely need to. I see it on my TikTok and I'm like, damn, I need to be cool. But I see like the potential here with marketers, and then even from a product perspective too. It's like, oh, hey, like we have all this stuff that's coming out along with the less is more core. Like, what can we do? What can we create for a product line that could go into these drugstores, that could lean into like what's here to stay from that side of things? And so I think there's so much room here for like anybody in the spectrum of where you land in the industry, so that like you can always
find it valuable. Yeah, well, actually, you hit it on the head. Something that we're actually currently working through now with the beauty client is like what's the general question was like, what's missing? What it was something that people are like, maybe I wish X brand did this from our product or category line. And so that personally, just as a strategist, I'm like, oh, my ears are tingling. I'm like, love digging into those things because one, I'm a fan of the space, but two, again, the way we see it and the way we analyze it, that's just another avenue that we can dig into. And those potential reports not only go to yes marketing, but they do 100% go into product development, and they even go into comms teams who are thinking about, okay, if we're going to go down this X path and make this, like, what's the positioning? What does the messaging look like? So for sure, super valuable, I think, across any really of the departments that would touch, as long as they, have demystified some of it and been able to break it down.
Well, my ears perked up right away when I read and heard of that, like, men's skin routine, right, are becoming more and more trendy, which is great because I thought it was a little, I don't know, off tone when I recently got a present for my wife as like an under eye cream, and she also commented that my bags are big enough to fly international. So now that I have that, what are some of the brands that you might have caught in the research that are doing men's skincare well, or just kind of playing in the men's health and beauty space?
I mean, if we're looking at, like, Gen Z, like a lot of the, like CeraVe and Cetaphil, products are very, like, they're, the marketing is very gender neutral, but they also are very just popular in general. The price point, right? The results people, are happy with. And I would say, like, I think for young people, especially when it comes to skincare, it's, price point is a very big thing. It's not necessarily like, men might not be as interested in, some of the celebrity skincare or beauty brands, but I think, I've seen a lot of the mainstays, like Kiehl's, I know, does try to really cater to men. I know that, I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that there's also, and I've seen, sorry to interrupt you, I've seen kind of legacy brands like repackage things. So like you'll see The Ordinary did like a bundle of things for men. It was like, so not necessarily directly targeting men, but are aware that men are starting to be more curious. And then I believe I've seen like even legacy brands like Clinique doing something similar in their like really gray, slate gray packaging, which again, it's not, won't get into all the packaging and the color, but clearly very focused on men. And I believe that there was even at the kind of Target specialty store, drugstore level, you still have like that's still that kind of focus on, I think it was like Jack Black, Bulldog Skincare, and I think Disco, which are slight like in the range of one level up, because like I shave and I need some more care there. So I think it's a slow burn for sure. But we are starting to see, I would say, brands that are exclusive to men, and definitely legacy brands starting to package bundles in a certain way to address that growing space.
It's good to see it evolving past aftershave. I love it. I'm
We're
here
there.
For it. Yeah.
I remember when like Axe, I mean, maybe they were around before, but like the original Axe commercials, I'm going to date myself here, right? But that was like so towards men. And like we hadn't really had a lot of that before. And I think more of those skincare and cosmetics brands are leaning into that too. Stacey in the comments even mentioned like Drunk Elephant, like they're leaning into the men's side of skincare as well. And they're doing a really good job with it.
All right, we're gonna go back where we were. So I'm gonna hand this over to Dee and talk about why all of this matters.
Why are we all here? What are we doing? So when it comes to, I think clearly we've talked about the partnership with ViralMoment, and obviously I think, with us and kind of at Samy Alliance, we are, when it comes to understanding culture and understanding internet culture better, and which at the end of the day is understanding our consumers better and that behavior. So much of that, what we've done with ViralMoment, being able to have access to that tool and really being able to give it to our team. And again, that, like Jazz noted, that kind of these analysts and strategists who live and breathe said brands. These are really the points that for us really stick out the most. So when it comes to emerging trends, obviously you've seen a range, right? We saw a lot of visual ones. We touched a little bit of the audio or even text trends, right? And I think audio and text that are coming forward in these little hybrids. It really does require what we consider like a really big finger on the pulse. So what I love about Viral Moment is that it doesn't necessarily tell me exactly, but it tells me where there is fruit to keep growing and to keep digging deeper into things. And I would say when it comes through sifting through the noise, like and trying to figure out why people are the way they are about X, I need, at the end of the day, I do need to be able to sift through that in a very smart and a very thorough way. I was blown away by the ability to like find little image, if I'm looking for videos that have X bottle or X products, like whether that's in the forefront, whether that's in the background, it's huge because at the end of the day, we start to analyze these things like, okay, when it's off in the background, people still pick it out, right? We've all watched our favorite creators doing X, notice something in the background and called it out. So just being able to like even attach slight behavior shifts and the way people are digesting content to those little details, that's really how we figure out what these emerging trends are. We dig deep into the comments and we're like, okay, this piece of content is on X, but everybody keeps talking and using this phrase about Y. Like, what's there? We're on the case, for lack of a better phrase, and we dig into that deeper, right? The second point really does curiosities and curation. We talked about, the fire noodle trend and how beauty is playing within food. And at the end of the day, these audience passion points are evolving. We are, the more we are exposed to the globalization of food and all the different content, really those new passion points can sprout up overnight. So for us, it's so important really to understand and be able to implement them into content campaign development in a way that is real and natural and organic, and in a way that for some brands, again, it's, hey, we want to jump in on this because we want to have a little bit of fun. It leans into us a little bit, but it's more about a fun thing, or this is core to our brand DNA. We want to talk about this and we're going to kind of keep talking about this. So what are those curiosities and curation? And I'm personally, just again, being on the strategy side, I'm constantly obsessed with why people are the way they are, and those are always attached to their curiosities and what they're curating for themselves. And the kind of more, I would say, like brass tags and an important piece, but it's never that it shouldn't be important, but it's like those first reactions. So whether that is a campaign launch or a new collaboration, any of those things, really being able to understand those like first reactions, we're not talking a survey, but really just how people are reacting to it. Viral Moment has really helped us surface, again, positive, negative, and neutral, but also like from the negative, what matters, from the positive, what matters, and really be able to speed up our team's effectiveness when it comes to connecting those dots. And so if we go to the next slide, we talk a little bit about what that lens is. And so at Samy, we can, our approach here with Culture Current is we always say that it's a lens in which we look at your brand. We would look at one brand differently from the other, but the base and the core of how we approach it is the same. And a little bit of fine-tuned, it's probably a bird watching joke, but like a little focus to make sure that we are looking at it clearly, right? And so on one side, you do have this kind of strong arm within research and culture. What's happening now? Who are those leading voices? What do they mean? What does that matter? And then on the opposite side of that, strategy and the outputs, how do we take action with the right speed and being relevant? Obviously, we're all doing it to be relevant, but again, how do we focus and make sure we're really capitalizing on the moments that matter? And if we break down a little bit of that even further, so when we look at that right side, right, research and culture, that's analyzing them. I mean, obviously what you see there, but the core of that is analyzing those emotions. We're reviewing reactions. We're deciphering and digging into that video content in ways that we were really never able to unless I could chain myself to the computer and watch 90,000 videos, which I cannot. But we're also decoding relationships and we're mapping creators. We're really looking at it end to end with as many of those inputs as we can. And then on that right side, when we're putting out those strategy and outputs, that is looking at those relevant cultural spaces, mapping certain opportunities for your brand and what makes sense, again, short-term versus long-term, building social narratives, but at the end of the day, social is brand, brand is social. What are those narratives? How do we plan for that in the most effective way? And then when we're set there, is it really about amplifying X amount of creators in a certain way? Are we focusing on kind of reinforcing your community efforts and what's happening there? So a lot of these, it could be one of them, it could be all four, but really Culture Current that's what makes you Culture Current, in our opinion, is being able to take these inputs, look through these lenses in the right ways, and have the right partners to guide you on, again, what makes sense for the now and what makes sense for later.
Yeah, and that's why we enjoy these partnerships so much, is because we can tell the what all day long, and then folks like you, right, and at Samy, you can tell us the why, and you can really dig into these trends much further than just the analytics itself. Tell us if they have staying power. Tell us about the communities that are talking about this. Tell us about the historical, having that product category expertise, right, to have context to that, to the analytics. So that's such a huge help for us as well.
Love this. This was this was awesome. We'll leave. I know we're over time. We said 45 minutes, but we had a lot of fun and a lot of good conversations. I still see quite a few people here, which is awesome. So thank you so much for sticking with us through this. The report will be sent out at the end as well as the recording, but I do want to open it up for like other questions. Is there anything else outstanding? Anything that like even any of us saw that was pretty cool that we want to bring up and just kind of like notate? So I want to leave the next few minutes for some live Q&A and see where we go. But this was great. You guys really dug into the data. Like, I'm fascinated. I love to see how people can take the data that we supply and then transform it into something really tangible. And so as much as like our UI and our product does a lot of that work, I think having analysts, just like you said, that are in this niche that really understand your industry and your consumer just makes it so much easier to know, like, why does it matter?
Yeah, and I think it also does help with like making those trend, like how the trend evolves, easier to like identify, because like if you're coming in and you're looking at 3 months worth of makeup data, you might not see initially turned into like different nationality iterations, which then people took and they made it into like, I'm going to do movie characters, or I'm going to do like somebody made a filter to like mimic it. Like those connections, unless you're like living in the data through like watching it happen, it's not as obvious sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do love again that sense of community with like, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do the edit, and kind of banding together and being like, I got you. Here's the filter. That's, I think, the core of that. It really brings us closer to community in ways that aren't as straightforward if you don't have a tool. I think really helping you get deeper to those pieces. Yeah.
I just want to echo too, the report is like jam packed with all of these really rich key findings. I think we skimmed about 50, 60. We talked about 50 to 60% of it, but there's a lot of other good stuff that we're going to send to everyone that registered right after this recording, so that you can have it available. You can take the time to look through it. It's really good stuff. So make sure to check it out.
And also on that note, just a big shout out as well to the team that has like worked on this report, especially our newest member of the team, Hannah. She's been like immersed herself into ViralMoment as well as the beauty trends. I hope she's not dreaming of the next trend, but also as well as like Adriana LaRoche. She's an art director on our team, and she just helps us to communicate our findings in the most inspiring way. So
Absolutely.
thank you to the team as well.
Hope to do this again with y'all.
Yay, this was great. Thank you all so much. We'll send out the recording. We'll send out the deck, and don't hesitate to send us a message. hello@viralmoment.com if you have questions about working with us, working with Samy, doing a collaboration together so we can give you a report just like this for all the stuff that you care about for your industry, your brand, your competitors, your products, your niche, whatever it is that you want to look at, cats and top hats, all the way to cosmetics. It doesn't really matter. We can do it for you. So let us know. Thank you so much. Happy Wednesday. You're halfway through the week. I am super excited. So everyone have a great day. Have the rest of your week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.